consultation.
Full Measure with Cheryl Atkinson, today at 2:30 on MyTV Baltimore.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily represent the views of MyTV Baltimore. WUTB recruits organizations that regularly distribute information about employment opportunities. To include your organization on our referral list, please contact the station.
Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. I want to welcome all of our new cities to the Straight Talk family and hope that you enjoy the shows that we give you about topics that are very important to our families. And today we're going to talk about probably one of the most important, certainly highly publicized issue in this country, and that's heroin addiction and opiate addiction. Every city that watches this show is going through some kind of epidemic when it comes to heroin and opiates. It doesn't discriminate. It affects every community, regardless of where you are. And today we're going to talk about not only the problem, but the solution. Help is available, treatment works, and we're going to show you on Straight Talk. And joining me, who's very brave to be here, is Sean O'Brien. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You are a recovering heroin addict.
Yes.
You're here to tell your story, and it's just a wonderful thing that you're doing. And I'm sure people will benefit from hearing your story.
That's what I'm hoping is the outcome.
So thanks for being here. We've got the whole show.
Okay.
So let's kind of start at the beginning. Tell me about your drug use, how it started, and how you progressed.
Well, it all started in high school. Was working in a restaurant and started with marijuana and alcohol. It was readily available. At the first opportunity I took, and I used it and fell in love with it. And from that point forward, I never thought that opiates or heroin was going to be in the picture. Like that wasn't a possibility. It was going to be smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol, and that was it. So I quickly fell in love with it and started doing it every day. And but when those other drugs came into play, I didn't back down.
So you were smoking pot and drinking every day?
Oh, yeah.
Thinking I'd never do heroin?
I'd never touch heroin.
I'm not doing that. That's the hard stuff.
Right.
Okay. So you were loving your pot and your alcohol in high school.
And I thought that was the life.
Okay.
Until I died, that was it.
That was it.
And little did I know that's not the case at all. I got introduced to Oxycontin and other pain pills, started using them, and then when the cost of that was way too expensive, I turned to heroin and didn't look back. Everything that I thought I wouldn't do, I did.
How did you get the Oxycontin?
Through people that I knew, drug dealers.
So you were buying it off the street?
Yes. Yeah. I had, like I said, I was smoking weed and I was drinking, and then those people that I was doing that with had graduated to that level. So, I joined them in that, and then found drug dealers that were selling the pain pills.
When you were just smoking pot and drinking, did you feel like it was like an obligation that when other drugs came about that you had to try it?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of discussion about gateway drugs, and while there's no real proof that drugs lead to other drugs, but the pressure.
Oh, you're there. You're in that environment, and you're hanging around the people that are going to take that next step. And for me, being a drug addict, I wanted the next thing that was going to take care of the voices in my head or what was going on with me. I wanted to stop all that.
So you were buying your Oxycontin off the street.
Correct.
Pretty expensive.
Oh yeah.
And so heroin was cheaper than Oxycontin?
Yes.
Is that what it?
Yes. And I found that going down to the city and getting heroin was a lot cheaper. I'm spending $50 for this pill. $10 is getting the same effect. So it was a no-brainer to me, even though I thought that I wouldn't take that step. Even when using the Oxycontin, I thought,
So
okay.
using Oxycontin, you still thought you were like this middle
yeah.
class,
Yeah, of
no big
course.
deal, I'm just taking prescriptions.
Right.
I'm still not a junkie.
Right. It's Oxycontin.
Right.
It's not heroin.
Gotcha.
That, but it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. It's the same thing.
So then you found yourself down in the city.
Yeah. Copping heroin.
Buying your heroin.
Yes.
And now you couldn't go and buy it in the city.
Right.
Could you?
Well, not at first. I mean, you got to know what you're doing.
Right.
And, but yeah, eventually I did. And then I was a part of that lifestyle. And then I was down there and I was copping it. And, from being that high school kid that was just smoking weed and drinking, all of a sudden I'm in these holes in the city copping heroin.
How long are we talking about?
3-4 years.
3-4 years. And you're down, now you're in the city and you're buying. Now, Oxycontin, were you just eating the pills or were you shooting them up?
At that point, I was snorting them
Snorting
and
them?
taking them, yeah.
Okay, so now you go into the heroin. How'd you do that?
Well, it started off snorting, and then again, when, somebody I knew was IV using it, and they wanted to do it to me, I let them do it, and that was it. It was IV use from that point forward.
So you were shooting up
Yes.
from then on
Yes.
because it was a better high.
Right.
So here you are in another group of people all using dirty needles. You didn't care.
Didn't care.
Didn't care.
No. It completely, anything that I cared about, a big sports guy, all that, could care less about it. The heroin took over everything that I cared about. It got me to the point to where I'm in and out of jails, I'm in and out of rehab, and I always used to think, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Because I'm in high school, I had decent grades, somewhat popular, and then all of a sudden, from the smoking weed and the drinking, I'm a full-blown heroin addict.
Yeah. How'd you afford it?
Breaking the law. That's what it came down to. If whoever I had to rob, whatever I had to do to get that, that's what I did.
And didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
And that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't think about, I could overdose, I could get arrested, I could get HIV, hepatitis, I could, hurt somebody.
Right.
That doesn't cross your mind when you're an addict.
Not at all.
All you want is the drug.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to get that, that's what I'm doing. And that's not, that wasn't me before I started using heroin. I wasn't the type of kid that was, going to rob somebody or break into somebody's house. But when I'm on that, that's who I am. Because,
it turned you into something else.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this is a good start. We're
Yeah.
going to keep going.
Okay.
Because I think your story, I think there's a lot of people out there that know somebody who's got the same story.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure we take this, to the happy ending.
Right.
Where people know that there is some help. So thank you again for being here and sharing your story. It's a very brave thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to keep talking with Sean about his heroin addiction and also about what he did to get help. And this is an important show, and I want you to watch it as a family and spread the information. So we're going to come right back to Straight Talk and keep our discussion going. We'll see you in a minute.
Who helps a hero? Who tells the story of their scars? The freedom and safety of so many, of us all, is earned by the sacrifices of so few. Who helps a hero? We all do. The Gary Sinise Foundation works to support America's defenders and strengthen their families through entertainment, the construction of smart homes for our wounded heroes, and by inspiring and educating others to also support the veterans within their own communities. We enjoy the benefits of their sacrifice and service each day. Now it's time we serve them. Find out how you can help our heroes at GarySiniseFoundation.org. While we can never do enough to show our gratitude to our nation's defenders, we can always do a little more.
Calls me googly eyes. You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking with Sean O'Brien, who is a recovering heroin addict. Given what's happening out in our communities everywhere in this country, heroin and opiate addiction is just taking over families and communities everywhere. And Sean is here telling us his story so that we can learn about addiction and learn about recovery. And thank you again for being here, Sean.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
In the first segment, you talked about being a nice middle-class kid, start smoking weed, drinking, and within 3 years, you're down in the middle of the city shooting heroin.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now, here you are, robbing, stealing, getting your money, and eventually, I guess you got busted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's usually what happens,
Yeah,
right?
that's what happens. I mean, I got busted several times, in and out of jail, you know, and when I'm in jail, I know that I got to change something.
Right.
But like to completely change to me was crazy. So when I got back out, you know, it was the same thing. Right back to heroin, thinking that I can drink and I can smoke weed again, the same thing that I did when I was younger.
But you're not going to do heroin.
Exactly.
Right.
And that was always my thought, coming out of jail or coming out of rehab, that's what it was going to be. And then
How long that lasts?
not long, not long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the addict, right?
Right.
That's the mentality of an addict.
That's what happens, because the smoking weed and drinking was great, but that's not really what I wanted. And when I'm back with those people that are doing that, you know, I'm going to be in that mind frame where I'm going to go back to what I really want to do.
Right. Because you knew what that super high was like of heroin.
Exactly.
And that's what drives people back, would you
Yeah.
say?
Oh, of course.
You know, I mean, you're out on the streets and now you're helping people, but that drive, once you have that taste of heroin,
Yeah.
I don't think people understand the power of heroin.
No. It completely, like I said earlier, takes over everything. It becomes me, and I do whatever it takes to chase that.
Things you would never do before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
never
things,
do.
The things you would do to people or robbing and stealing, things you would never do. It's not who you are.
Right.
But heroin makes you do things.
It makes you do it. And I never thought that I would go to jail, go to prison, be in rehab, but those stuff that happened. Yeah. And, you know, to think for me that take the kid in high school that was drinking and smoking weed and then take the guy that's addicted to heroin and strung out. You know, I just never thought that would happen. That
and
this
you didn't
would
care
equal
about
that.
You were using needles and,
Yeah.
you know,
I didn't-
dirty needles, whatever. You didn't know. You didn't
Yeah.
care.
Things that I think about now, and it was crazy.
Right. Crazy behavior.
Right.
And that's what that drug makes you do, unlike the marijuana and the alcohol.
Right.
And that's what I think people don't understand. Because I think now that this is in the middle class communities, the cities have been dealing with heroin for years.
For years, yeah.
But these middle class communities are now hit with this hard drug that they never thought they'd do.
Right.
And it's overwhelming to them because they can't realize that this is what it turns you into.
Yeah, it does. I mean, a complete monster. That's what happens. Like I said, I just never thought that the things that that I did to get that drug are crazy. And the time that it cost me, it's insane.
Yeah. Now, this went on for how long?
With the heroin, it went on for maybe 7 years on heroin, in and out of jail constantly, in and out of rehab. And when I think back on it, I didn't have that much time to actually use, because as soon as I picked up, there were consequences. Because like I said, my life was...
You kept getting busted? You
Oh,
kept
yeah.
ending up...
Yeah. Kept getting busted, kept going to rehab, and, you know, that's what happens.
But none of the rehabs, because you didn't really want to stop.
I didn't want to stop.
You wanted to rest.
Right. Right. And it wasn't until I was beaten enough and actually took this seriously and realized that, because I knew for a while that something wasn't right, that I was an addict, that, you know, normal people don't keep going to jail or in and out of rehab. It just doesn't happen. You know, I didn't want this thing before. I wasn't willing to do everything that it took for me to stay sober. But it got to a point to where when I realized that, you know, this always ends with me either being homeless or in jail. Like, something has to break this cycle.
And the kinds of treatment programs you went to, was it more that, were they residential programs?
They were 28-day programs.
And it was more you than the program?
Correct, right.
You weren't ready?
I wasn't ready. I needed to be ready. Like, I thought that I could figure it out on my own. And that I was just wrong. It doesn't work like that. You know, when I'm in control, you know, bad things happen.
Mm-hmm. And your family, through all this, they probably didn't know what was going on?
Well, they were great at holding the line with me and not enabling me, which is great. I work in treatment now, and that's great. Like, and that's a big part of it. Like, having the family support, because when an addict gets enabled, they're not going to stop using. You know, you're not.
So you got to be tough. When you say enable, you're talking about can't give them money, can't, you know, you got to be tough with them.
Right.
Tough love or whatever.
Right.
But you got to be tough with them. You can't give in to them.
Right. And, you know, if you're not going to do these certain things, go to treatment, then you need to, you know, we're not going to support you. We're not going to pay for your phone or pay for whatever.
And your family got to the point where
and
they did
got
that.
Yeah. So get out of the house, you know, figure it out.
Yeah. But it took them a while to get there.
Yeah.
So what you're saying to families out there that are watching, that have a son, a daughter, a relative, a friend, you gotta
hold the line, because I'll tell you that unfortunately, to this disease, I've been to a lot of funerals. I've seen a lot of people die, and this just isn't something to play with. It really isn't. You know, and if you're enabling somebody to use, you know, that's just.
And I'm sure parents say, well, if I throw them out, they're going to die, and if I can't do this, and I can't, you know, I can help him.
Right. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. You know, the way to help them is to get them in treatment, not keep them in your house and give them money. You know.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we'll take a little break.
Okay.
And I want to talk about your treatment.
Okay.
And then what you're doing now to help others, because there is a happy ending to this story.
Of course.
Thanks for giving us all the gritty details of heroin addiction, but I think people need to hear it.
Yeah.
They need to understand it. When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to continue our conversation with Sean, a recovering heroin addict who's sharing everything about his story so that you and anyone out there can learn how to deal with this epidemic, because what we're doing doesn't seem to be working. So when we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to keep talking to Sean. We'll be back in a minute.
Will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes twice a day. They have the time.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking with Sean O'Brien, recovering heroin addict, about his own use of heroin and his own recovery. And again, Sean, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Of course.
You know, you got to the point in your life, like many addicts, where we say you reached the bottom, or it hurts so much you need to change, and you finally realized it. What was different on the treatment that actually worked versus all the other treatments that didn't work?
Well, when the treatments that didn't work, you know, I didn't take the suggestions that they were giving me. Again, I wanted to do things my way. This time I got in there, I really did the work on myself. And when I got out, you know, a halfway house was part of the plan. I took that. I did anything that was suggested to me, which was a problem in the past. I wanted to do things my way.
Right.
So it was really important for me to listen to what they said and not go against it. And like I said, my family at that point was holding a firm line. So they were in place. They cut me off completely. I couldn't live back there. So I really had no option. And when I had no option, my back was against the wall, and I did everything I could.
And this made a difference.
Oh, big difference.
You've been clean how long?
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So 3 years ago, you go into treatment, and it sticks. Something about you makes that connect.
Right.
That says, okay, I'm moving in the right direction.
Right.
So you go to a treatment center, halfway house, and then what do you do after that?
Well, I'm involved in a 12-step fellowship.
12-step program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for me, it's hard sometimes to keep that a priority, but it has to be. Before this time, I had 2.5 years and stopped doing the things I was doing and went back out and relapsed.
Gotcha.
And at that point, at 2.5 years, I didn't think that using was an option again.
Right.
It had been 2.5 years, and again, I went back out, thought I could drink, and it ended in heroin.
Yeah.
So for me, like that's, I work in treatment, which
yeah,
is awesome.
Now you're actually working and helping other people.
Right.
Sharing
and
your story.
This is, I've known for a while that this is what I want to do. It was just a matter of getting myself straight, and I couldn't ask for a better job. I mean, to be able to, on a daily basis, work in treatment and help others and, just see the behavior that I used to have.
I'll bet.
It's awesome.
And and you can tell them, hey, I was just there a couple of years ago.
Right.
Don't screw around, this is your,
Right.
But you also probably see a lot of yourself when they sit there and go, oh, I can handle it.
Yeah. All the time. But that gives me the opportunity to talk to them. And, it's about getting them to a point to where they can enjoy life and be successful and not just come off the drugs, but have a successful life. Like that's, a lot of them struggle with, basic life skills. And I had, and I did too when I got clean. And, I have the opportunity now to help them and, show them what it's like to be an adult.
And I guess the concept of treatment, it does work.
Right.
But you have to put something into it.
Of course. Yeah.
Because you saw both sides. You were in treatment and it didn't work. and then you went to treatment and it was there and saved your life.
Right.
So.
And it wasn't, you know, it was me. It wasn't the treatment.
Yeah.
I had to be willing to want to stop and to, you know, like I said, have a happy life, you know, because for a while I didn't think that was possible. So yeah, and once I got to that point, once, you know, my parents were on board and once I was on board to actually do what was suggested to me, good things happened.
So now you work at Maryland Addiction Recovery Center.
Correct.
Here in Maryland.
Yes.
And they have the whole gamut of services. I guess you work in the residential piece.
Yes.
Everyone's, you know, going through exactly what you did.
Oh yeah, the same thing I went through. I work on the evening shift. I'm the evening RM supervisor, and so I really get to see, you know, the patients are in group all day, and then they come back to the residents, and you know, I really get to see like some of the, you know, the behaviors that, you know, that happen on that shift. So it's awesome for me to be able to just, you know, spend time with them, talk to them, because on that shift I really get a chance to just talk to them because they're not, you know, they're not in the clinical setting, they're in a residential setting. It's pretty awesome.
Right. And your relationship with your family
is 100 times better.
Amazing, right?
Yeah. Just went over there the other week, watched the Super Bowl with them. And I wasn't, you know, I was kicked out of their house. If I was on the property, they were calling the police, you know. So now to be able to do that, it's awesome.
But isn't it amazing? And this is, you know, we're almost at the end of the show, but for people out there to understand that heroin turns good people into bad people. And if we can get them clean, they can be the good person again.
Of course.
Miracles happen.
Yeah.
But we got to get them into treatment.
Right.
To change that behavior and to help them. But the drug is that powerful.
Oh yeah, it really is. I mean, it will completely, like I said, like that's my only objective for the day is to chase that drug. And like you said, treatment, like in order to combat this thing, we need to get people into treatment, get them involved in a 12-step fellowship, and good things can happen.
Get them off the streets in a way.
Of course, yeah.
Because you were living in the middle of it. It's hard to stop when it's all around you.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. You know, I needed something to happen, whether that was me going to jail or somebody getting me to treatment, and that was the best thing for me.
Yeah. And that's probably what we lack, probably. But treatment is so important. And it works. I mean, it worked for you, it worked for thousands of people. But now you're also going to Narcotics Anonymous.
Correct.
Which, again, probably the greatest treatment program in the world was Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
So you do a 12-step program. So you continue to work something to keep yourself going.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. If I don't, I know the result. You know, this for me, I know this is a lifelong battle. And
well, you're a hell of a role model.
Thank you.
For everyone out there.
So are you.
Because I know that people are watching this going, I do know somebody who's got a problem. And hopefully they've heard your story today and will make that move to get treatment and not give up on that person. So again, I can't thank you enough.
Yep.
You know, congratulations on being clean.
Yep.
And you got a great future ahead of you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Heroin is a terrible epidemic in this country. Sean showed us the way back. I hope all of you listened, paid attention. And if you know somebody that needs help, pick up the phone, get them the help they need, because treatment does work. I want to thank Sean. Thank you for watching Straight Talk.
Maryland's promise of a great public education for all was forged right here in Baltimore nearly 200 years ago. And now is the time to renew that commitment to save Baltimore City schools. I'm Chris Pabst, Fox 45 News Project Baltimore investigative reporter, and our promise to you is simple. How your tax dollars are spent will be investigated. Go to foxbaltimore.com and join us in writing a new chapter for Baltimore City Public Schools.
It's a story you saw only on Fox 45. Maryland agencies exposing you to hackers.
There's really kind of no excuse today to not have sensitive data encrypted.
A Fox 45 investigation prompted a lawmaker to take action. But find out why the state won't back his plan to protect you.
Tomorrow on Fox 45 News at 10. The new ROH World Champion Christopher Daniels is in the house. Plus, it's an ROH Dream Match. The Briscoes go for the World Tag Team titles against the Hardys. It's a